This is the Foretoken Newswire. I'm Jason Rowlett. We are happy to have along with us on this special episode Gus Marquez. He is the head of product at Parcel, and he is joining us today to talk about this very well-known tokenized real estate company. And we will get into what Parcel is doing these days, what they've got coming up, and where the tokenized real estate industry is headed. So, Gus, thank you so much for being here. How are you?
Thank you. Doing great. Appreciate you having me.
Fantastic. We're very happy to have you along. You are our first interview on our relaunched Foretoken Newswire podcast, part of the Foretoken Signal Network. So tell us about Parcel. Kind of give us a brief introduction of your product, your brand. Tell us what it is that makes you set apart.
Yeah, definitely. Real estate's the largest asset class in the world. No brainer. Everybody either dreams of owning real estate as an investor or for their own home. And so real estate exposure just plays a big role in like wealth creation. The challenge with real estate is the fact that it involves property management, right? That involves maintaining the property. If you're an investor, that means dealing with tenants. That means, dealing with vacancy and potentially having to carry some of those overhead costs with you. And so what do? We enable you to gain access to real estate returns without having to own a physical property. And so from the perspective of especially individuals who don't have the kind of capital that's needed to have a diversified portfolio where real estate plays a role in that portfolio, many people are going to have to put all of their capital in the same asset, right? Like literally a singular home, maybe a duplex or something like that if they have the capital. But in either case, it's a large sum of money going into one pot, not diversified. And so what we believe is that people should be able to have access to real estate without any of the headaches, no property management, no property taxes, no property insurance, and especially none of the maintenance, which is actually kind of like that hidden cost that most people just, underappreciate until kind of the HVAC system needs replacing or the roof needs replacing. And so what do? We enable people to invest in real estate without any of the headaches. And we think that's huge, especially with just the lack of affordability in real estate throughout the United States and just the necessity to want to have a diversified portfolio where real estate plays a role. And so we're just really excited to offer liquid real estate to everyone at whatever price point that's available to them, whether that be $100, $100,000, or $1 million. We provide liquidity in major metros, which are effectively unaffordable in the United States.
Absolutely. And as you said, you target more retail investors, types of people that are not so-called qualified investors with $250,000 liquid cash. That's what's so interesting to me about real estate now is the blockchain has for the first time been able to not only fractionalize real estate beyond what a REIT used to do, but also provides much more ownership, a more intimate ownership of the asset class. And as you say, you can buy as much or as little of a property as you want without putting up all of your capital, which it is really amazing what the blockchain can do. As that is who you're going after in the market, is there any sort of parameters you have on your target audience? Is it mainly the retail investor, kind of the sort of small-time investor? How do you define your target audience?
Yeah, definitely. There's two user personas we focus on. One, aspiring real estate investors. That's going to be someone between the ages of like 21 and 35. Maybe they make household median income, which is roughly about $83,000. They're already priced out of almost every major metro. So we want to make sure that they understand that there's a place for their money to actually track real estate returns, right? So it's very important that they understand that. So that's our first user persona. It's a younger investor, looking to dabble in real estate, but also remain diversified. The second persona that we're targeting is an experienced real estate investor, someone who owns anywhere from 2 to 5 properties, has dealt with the headaches of property management. Maybe they're dealing with a squatter, they've had a water heater break, they've had to call a plumber at 2 a.m. Because a septic tank maybe needs to be emptied out or something like that. And so those are our two major user personas. I think one of the key differentiations that people kind of mistaken with real estate exposure is that like, hey, REITs are real estate exposure. REITs are not real estate exposure. REITs are property management exposure, right? If you own a REIT where where the managers of that REIT are bad at managing property, that REIT will not return you the dividend that you expect, right? And so on the flip side, if the assets within that REIT are appreciating, you don't get any of that upside. You only get operating income. And so again, you don't actually get exposure to real estate in many of the asset classes that people think they're getting exposure to real estate, right? If you think you're buying a bond portfolio, you're buying credit. If you're buying a REIT, you're buying property management, right? If you buy a property, you're buying property management, right? Again, it's very important that people understand that like there is more to the asset than just owning it, right? In order to actually capture the appreciation. On Parcel, you capture the entire appreciation without any of the headaches. You're not betting on property management. You're saying, hey, I think the market in Austin is going to continue to go up, right, over the long run. And so I'm going to buy, square footage in Austin on Parcel. And so that's what we really do. So we have those two target audience, right? We hope the aspiring investor through Parcel learns about the headaches and the hidden costs of real estate. So they use Parcel. And we hope that the experienced investor in real estate also is reminded of the headaches that involve, all their properties and whatnot, and uses Parcel to continue to diversify their portfolio within real estate.
Yeah, that's really awesome. I think there's 5 different major ways you can make money off of real estate traditionally, through appreciation and debt, and of course rental income and the whole thing, taxes. But yeah, with Parcel, you really have the 100%, ownership of the entire pie without the headaches. So it really sets you guys apart fantastically. You have a turnkey integration, much smoother onboarding, as I understand it. And then you also do like a funding of accounts. Can you tell us a little bit of kind of the back end of how you onboard investors and new users, for the lack of a better term, and tell us a little bit about your turnkey integration?
Yeah, and so this is actually being built right now, and so we expect to ship it here in the next coming week or two. And so what we ultimately have seen is that hey, we're pitching the product to people all over the world. Right, they're very excited about the product, but then naturally, like every other DeFi product, it's okay. Like, how do I join? And so then you start going down the rabbit hole, like, oh, you need this thing called Phantom or MetaMask or Backpack, and so it just becomes just kind of a cluster to try to explain, like, hey, how do you get money on here, right? And so we've seen other products. I think Moonshot has done a fantastic job of integrating with Turnkey, right? It's still a self-custody wallet, but now it's much easier to create that self-custody wallet. You don't have to worry about private keys. You don't have to necessarily worry about having this wallet around with you or anything. It's all built natively into the product. And so from the perspective of being able to have a wallet right away, we can create that instantly. And so that's the goal, is we want to be able to onboard people really quickly, but that's not the whole picture, right? It's like, okay, great. We created a wallet for you, but now how do you put money on it? And so
Right.
The funding of the wallet is what's really exciting. And so we're integrating with Coinbase's on-ramp, off-ramp, which is fantastic. It'll be native. People will be able to use the balances on their Coinbase accounts. And then we're also, in discussions with other players in the space who do offer the same type of integration in order to just facilitate much faster capital inflows into their accounts. And so we're just very excited about removing all of this stress and just friction in the onboarding flow, which every DeFi product experiences, right? And so from our perspective, what we've seen is that the native crypto user typically wants like much larger returns, where real estate may not be that interesting. And what we want to do is we want to onboard people who, understand the real estate markets, understand the return profiles of real estate, and want that exposure without any of the headaches, right? And so we need to reduce the friction for onboarding, which everyone in DeFi is experiencing. And so we're just excited to integrate Turnkey. We've seen it work in the wild with the products like Moonshot, and then incorporating more on-ramps. So Coinbase will be one of our on-ramps. We're talking to one of the largest consumer players in the space about using their on-ramp. And so we're just very excited about getting these on-ramps on, making that process very smooth. And not to mention like just the incorporation of our Parcel Labs, which is our data arm, and getting that data into our product as well, just to make sure that people really have a thorough understanding of the markets they're going into. And that's really the power of what we offer is the indexes created by Parcel Labs. So we're just excited about those onboarding vehicle, the on-ramp vehicle to get capital into accounts, and then just really more closely couple the ancillary data points that we have on each market so that people feel like they're making, the most informed decision possible.
Yeah, I would say in addition to a lack of education, that one of the things we tackle here at Foretoken about cryptocurrency in general, the hurdles, headaches, and the obstacles getting people on chain, getting money to the wallet is one of the biggest headaches in crypto, and that's awesome that you have that. It sets you ahead into a fantastic position to get people don't have to worry about that complexity. Certainly gets them where they need to be. And you have Vaults, which is more like an ETF, as I understand it. Tell us about Vaults.
Yeah, I'll tell you a little bit more about the vision because we're a little bit it's on the roadmap, right? It's kind of like third in line to some of the things that we're doing today. But what are Vaults, right? So today the product requires that you come to the product, have a Solana wallet. You're basically a Solana user, and then you can invest on the platform and buy square footage. But that may not necessarily be the best distribution vehicle for everybody, right? We have companies like Coinbase that have launched Base on Ethereum. Robinhood is launching their own RWA. There are other really cool RWA chains that are also coming on EVM, right? And so with the bridging solutions getting better over time, what we want to be able to do is offer people a tokenized representation of like the United States market, right? Where they don't necessarily need to come to Parcel explicitly to trade. What they can do, right, is buy these tokens on the open market. How will these tokens be minted? Well, somebody creates kind of like a mutual fund or a fund itself, right? People can put money into that fund, right? It mints a token which trades at the net asset value, just like a mutual fund trades, and it gives people exposure. So now they don't need this like direct path to Parcel. Now they can have this abstraction layer where they can basically invest in a token, and that token will move and represent the same value of the basket. So one basket may just be the Brooklyn market. Another basket may be, hey, we want everything in the Northeast. And so what we're very excited about Vaults is that it enables us to be able to deliver value across chains without necessarily needing to port our entire exchange over to different blockchains. And we think that's the power of blockchain generally, is like everyone should be able to bridge. People shouldn't really care what network they're on. They're just on the network of their choice, being facilitated by whomever they're, wherever they put their capital, right? So Base for Coinbase users, the new Robinhood chain for Robinhood users. And we want to make sure that our tokens, specifically these Vault tokens, are available on those markets so people can get exposure. And even thinking a little bit further, we think that our best investors on Parcel should be able to launch their own vaults with their own tokens so that they can basically start their own hedge fund in the real estate space, right? And so it's up to them to distribute their own token. It is up to them to generate better returns. And so we're just very excited. We'll eventually have a marketplace for these vaults where, Jason, you could create a vault and, you have an edge because you feel like, a particular area of the United States is somewhere that you really understand and how to invest in it. You should be able to launch your own vault just like a mutual fund launches a mutual fund, and people should be able to invest in that vault, and you should be able to make a small management fee. And so that's really the future of our vaults product. We'll first launch very basic vaults to be able to abstract Parcel, the trading platform, away from the users that are on other networks, be able to get them the exposure on the networks that they're on. But in the future, there should be an entire marketplace. This exists for companies like Altruist that offer financial advisors a platform to invest on. They offer individual funds marketplace for those advisors to be able to pick and choose from. We think that investors on Parcel should be able to choose from any fund that is outperforming the markets on our platform. So we're just very excited to slowly migrate this investing platform, which is effectively like user to exchange, right? And and abstract that and have, hey, investors who are very good, right, should be able to generate, better returns if they have more capital, right? And we want to be able to facilitate that. So we're just very excited about this Vaults product. It's coming down the line. It'll be live probably in the next, the coming 3 to 4 months. It's a little bit longer game. But we're just excited to create a platform where investors can invest, they can raise capital in those vaults, and also be able to kind of like abstract the necessity of using the UI and being able to tokenize their offering across all of their chains and use the bridging solutions, which is really what I think blockchain's all about. Like, it shouldn't matter whether you're on Solana, whether you're on SWI, whether you're on some EVM L2. What really matters is that we're facilitating the movement of capital extremely quickly in a way that the traditional financial market could never.
Yeah, that's awesome. That is really forward thinking, really giving people that ownership at a multiplicity of ownership going forward, to have market specific and yet multiple properties and raising capital. That's a really cool feature for you guys. Lastly, let's talk about the rise of Parcel Labs Dashboard. Tell us about this. What is it? What makes it unique? And how is it adding to your guys' brand?
Yeah, definitely. So the inception of Parcel required data, right? And what we found is that data in real estate was actually very challenging to come by, like real-time data, right? You can get 2-month-old data, right, through Case-Shiller. You can get 1-month-old data through some of the data vendors. But what we realized was like, hey, there wasn't really a real-time data provider. And so we started off by creating a data solution because we needed the data on chain so that we can trade these assets. And so what we found over time is like, hey, this data solution, it's an API. Not everybody knows how to use an API. And so we've slowly been building this dashboard, right, which effectively allows people to monitor individual markets down to the individual listings, right? We show you like, what is the motivated seller index for any given home. We can tell you how delusional a seller is, right, when they're listing their house, right? If you go to certain markets in Austin, people are listing way above where actual clearing prices are taking place, right? And so we deem them delusional. And so with the platform that we're building on the Parcel Labs dashboard, what we're doing is we're offering people a very granular view to any real estate market in the United States. We have over 78,000 markets that we're covering, right? You can see listings for every single one of those markets. And now we're even covering some of these large SFR players like First Key or even Open Door, right, who own these single family homes. And we're seeing huge concentrations of these institutions in markets like Atlanta, right, where we previously saw the concentration in markets like Phoenix. And so what is the power of Parcel Labs is like we really have built a consumer product, right, for people to track real estate markets at a very granular level. And you're getting institutional grade quality data, right? That's the most important piece. This is the kind of data that Blackstone has. This is the kind of data that a First Key through their Cerberus hedge fund have. And so it's very important that transparency propagates through every single segment of real estate, not just the realtors, not just the people who are investors, to every single person making a real estate decision, whether that be renting, whether that be buying, or whether that be investing. And so we're just super excited about the prospects of Parcel Labs, the dashboard that we're building. So it's app.parcellabs.com. People should go there. You can see some really cool things. We've even done some really cool projects around like foreign adversary governments owning property in the United States, right? We did this really cool analysis like, hey, there's these concentrations where they own multiple houses. And so we did an overlay of like, hey, any of these drones, if they were to be launched from these locations, right? They're these kamikaze drones. Basically, they carry a small payload, they hit into something and blow up. Let's just assume in a hypothetical scenario that these adversarial governments were able to get these drones on shore and fly them from these locations. How many military installations are actually at risk in a 15-minute flight window? Right? And so we were able to overlay this on. So we call it our drone threat. And so you can go on the dashboard, you can see things like this. And, it's more of a fun project that we wanted people to kind of see like, hey, this is the power of our data. We can get super granular and give you really unique views using our overlays with, geography. And so, so Parcel Labs, I think it's, the platform is, I wouldn't say it's up and coming, but more people are becoming familiar with it. More players in the real estate are becoming familiar with it. And we think that there's like the same user base between the investing platform and Parcel Labs. So over time, what you'll see is a migration of those two user bases that right now probably lean a little bit more, I wouldn't say institutional, it's larger mom and pop, either property managers or landlords. They own, properties between 9 and 99. And so we're just very excited that more and more people are using the Parcel Labs dashboard. They're using it to make very informed on the ground decisions. And now they're even using it for publicly traded company analysis. So Open Door, I don't know if you saw, it's basically a meme over the last couple of weeks. They reported earnings yesterday, very poor earnings. And really you can get down to the assets. You can actually see what homes do they own? Are they making money when they sell these homes or not, right? The homes they're buying, what markets are those in? And that kind of granularity into the assets on the balance sheet for Open Door give investors an opportunity to kind of forward look like, hey, where is this company maybe going? Or what are the prospects of their earnings looking like? And so, again, we're just excited. We have an amazing, just unbelievable amount of granularity in our data that where we can help many different use cases. We're honing in on those use cases and just excited that more and more people are using it. And again, what is the overlap with Parcel, right? These are investors. These are people looking to invest in real estate, right? Right now they're dealing with the headaches, right? In some cases, the headache is selling a property. In other cases, it's finding good deals. In other cases, it's dealing with bad tenants. In all those scenarios, right? Parcel can help people kind of abstract all those pain points and just get pure real estate exposure. So we're just really excited that both products are great. Both products are evolving to meet the needs of our users.
Very cool. That's really cool branching out from just real estate. You're providing so many other services as well, ancillary to the real estate market. Anything else you'd like to let our audience know? Anything on your roadmap? What does the next 3 to 5 years look like? You're growing out these products, Vaults, Parcel Labs. Anything else you want to tell our audience about Parcel?
Yeah,
I think where can they find you?
Yeah, I mean, so parcel.co for the investing platform, app.parcellabs.com for all things real estate data. And I think, the biggest thing is like we're getting closer and closer to institutions investing. We're getting closer and closer to institutions needing more data and making more informed decisions. And so from our perspective, we just think like, the sky's really the limit in terms of like the, obtainable market here, simply because it's the largest asset class in the world, right? And so everyone has some exposure, whether they're paying rent, whether they're buying properties. And so we're just excited for the growth that's to come. We're seeing that growth kind of build up today. It's a snowball that's like kind of rolling down the hill, right? And we're very excited about how big we think this hill is. We think it's a mountain. And so we're just very excited about it. And I encourage people to kind of take a look at the platform, provide feedback. And, I think the coolest part about Parcel.co, the investing platform, is we're going to give you a side-by-side analysis of, hey, what is this deal you're looking at on Parcel.co as an investment versus buying a property and making the same investment? We're just going to give you an honest comparison, right? And so in some markets, it's negligible, the difference, right? And in some other markets, the difference is massive, and it's almost, much better to invest on Parcel. And so I just think that, we want to have an honest conversation. We want, to be transparent with people, and that's why we have all this data. And so we're just excited to continue to deliver value through removing all these pain points that exist in real estate. There's so many of them. I mean, if you've ever gone to purchase a house, there's a million middlemen.
Yeah.
If you've ever dealt with tenants, there's every kind of tenant and every kind of property manager, and everybody's trying to solve, problems similarly, and they're not all the best solutions. And so yeah, we're just excited to tackle these problems one by one, and really just abstract as much of the pain as we can into one simple offering.
Yeah, that's awesome. Gus Marquez, head of product at Parcl, parcel.co. Check out Parcel Labs as well.